Good morning, Mr. Capuccio. How are you today?
Hello, Jane. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm very, very good. So, we had some fantastic feedback from last week's Eccentric Darwinism Part 1. Some amusing feedback as well. So, everyone that does email and sends us some comments, thanks so much. It's great to know that you appreciate what we do here and are learning to get us, if you like. So, well, we've got part 2 of Eccentric Darwinism this week, where you're going to go into the other points and well, you tell us about what they are. Tell us how you're going to take
The
it forward.
first point, I think, out of all the points, will most emotionally resonate with fitness professionals. Because whether you're a group exercise instructor or whether you're a personal trainer, I think what drives us into this industry and what keeps us in this industry, if we manage to not get disillusioned and keep ourselves focused on the vision that first enticed us to do this, is mania. So you've got the cerebral aspect of what we do, the head, but then you've got the heart. And I think that really resonates with group exercise instructors because of the interpersonal dynamic of the environment of the group X room. The heart is really what you need to bring into the room, because no matter how solid you are cerebrally, you can't lead a group of people from the head and expect them to follow you long term. So in the article, we talked about Peter Han in his book, Nobody's to Somebody's. And Peter Han took a look at 100 of the absolutely most influential, successful, powerful people in our society from a diversity of fields. So you can't say, well, those attributes just pertain to that career. It was from a huge spectrum of different careers. And what he found is that one of the key ingredients in all 100 people who he studied intensely was, first of all, intrapersonal intelligence. They understood what moved them, what their makeup was, what their talents were, and how to employ them. But the other one was unbridled enthusiasm. In other words, they were complete nuttists, all of them. If you would see them in their work, they seemed like they were completely mental because they were so absorbed in what they do. And I think that's the key. You're not going to be maximally creative. You're not going to be able to create on demand and yield a high level of value if what you do is focused on what am I going to get out of it in the future. Because the payoff needs to be in the process to elicit the maximum capacity that we have. So basically, all of these people, like I would assume 80% of the people watching this right now, found a way to turn their vocation into a vacation. Because most people cannot seem to get themselves off the couch and do something that inspires them, not because they're not intelligent enough, not because they're not talented enough, but they can't seem to get themselves off the couch because their butts are too big. Now, I'm not talking about anatomically, Jane, although for some of us maybe that's the case, but I'm talking about psychologically. You know what, I would, but I'm already too old, but I'm too young, but I'm too tired. But I'm too much in debt, but I'm too educated, but I'm not educated enough. And however that shows up for you, if your butt is too big, it's because your reasons are too small. And if we're going to be truly outstanding in our career, do more than make a living, but make a difference, we need a reason that's bigger than we are. We need a why that's bigger than our butt. So, the questions I think we asked inside the article, if they've read it, is what is it about our career that gets us up early in the morning, keeps us up late at night? What is it we cannot stop thinking about? If you can ever remember a time in your career where you were headed to a conference, or it was a new position that you got, or it was a new class, or maybe you were presenting for the first time and you had that feeling of not being able to get to sleep later on that night. If you look back in retrospect, some people say that was the most exciting time of my life, because after it was done, after I taught the class, or after I taught a group of trainers or went to that conference, I was too absorbed in the moment to realize it at the time. But wow, was I happy. and the after effect was euphoria. So what is it that we're still most excited about, and what actions can we engage in daily that elicit that type of excitement? What you do daily determines who you become permanently, and what opportunities in the fitness industry, and what are the emerging trends in wellness that we're most looking forward to in the future, and how do we capitalize on these opportunities? Because Tom Peters, who Forbes magazine called the guru of gurus, points out that over the next 2 decades, our primary market segment, the biggest one, is still the baby boomer. Now, Jane, it was the baby boomer 10 years ago. So the people are the same, but their goals are different. 10 years ago, most of these people really just wanted to look better. But today, the baby boomer doesn't just want to look better. They want to live better emotionally, physically, and mentally. So exercise not only being one of the preeminent ways to elicit greater cognitive development is probably the only thing standing between them and rapid aging. How much does that excite you? And how much does that frighten you? Because it means the dynamic needs and complexity and the breadth and depth of the goals that our clients have today are much more complicated than they've ever been before.
That's amazing. You see, I could just listen to you for hours on this, because that ties in so much to what we've been saying about using the baby boomer as a focus. Because I have this theory, that everyone is just scared to death of dying. And the baby boomer market now, they say that the new 60 is the new 40, don't they?
Yes, that's exciting, especially if you're 59.
Yeah, they've got disposable income, they're looking good, they're feeling good, yet that we still hold on to this generational idea or concept that we have, that at this point in our lives, next stage is old age. So they're really eager to grasp onto their health and their wellness and their beauty. And I think the Group X instructor, like you say, with the manic persona that we've often got, it's because of the fact that we move at 100 miles an hour to music. But it's our greatest strength, because who doesn't love to be in a group with all their mates having fun to music? It's a subculture.
A couple of things that we struggle with in this industry is compliance. How do we take someone who comes in to visit a health club and who's not really decided, they're on the cusp, and how do we entice them step by step to turn that initial decision into a lifelong habit? And I think where we're missing the boat in this industry is we try to get them there through discipline, through willpower, through character, and we try to force them as if we want it badly enough for people, they'll change. I used to think, my God, I'll change that person if it kills me. I almost died. So we have to take a step back and think about, what is it that these people do in their daily lives that they don't need encouragement to do? People don't need encouragement to go on holiday. People don't need encouragement to fall in love. They don't need encouragement to go to cinema. And why is it that people are so driven towards activities that are not necessarily goal achieving, but tension relieving?
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, because our brain is wired in a certain way. If something elevates serotonin and dopamine, we're motivated to do it, and it alleviates pain and discomfort. So I'll go to cinema because it allows me to escape for a couple of hours. But think about this. I've got to get dressed and get ready to go to the gym. Now, I'm coming from work, so I've got to get on the tube or get on the train, or if I'm driving, I've got to get on the motorway and fight traffic. I'm so aggravated now. I'd rather be at home, resting on the couch, watching telly, because my day was so frustrating. But now, once I beat the traffic, I've got to go into the gym. I've got to get changed out of all of my work clothes into my exercise kit. Then I've got to go out.
Which doesn't flatter me.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Which
right.
I look ridiculous in.
ridiculous. And next to me on the treadmill is someone who looks like a supermodel. And now, I've got to go through the floor, be clumsy, do things I don't want to do after it's over, Jane. I've got to get changed all the way back after I've showered, get home, my kids are sleeping. Or one of my mates next to me at 5 o'clock says, you want to walk up to the pub, up the street? Yeah, okay. So, but group exercise, what it does is by exercising in a group, you activate affiliation theory. A bunch of people who you can identify with, and for a lot of the similar reasons you're there with, for, and who are having fun, eventually that group creates a social moray. Also, if people are having fun and smiling, the pattern of muscular recruitment in the face maps with centers of the brain that elicit happiness, that activate the reward pathways. So if you've got someone up there who's manic, right, and they're smiling and they're truly happy to be in that class, well, you cannot help but reflexively match and mirror that individual, and you fire off the same patterns in your face: orbicularis oculi, pars lateralis, zygomaticus muscles. Next thing you know, your orbital frontal cortex, right behind your left eye, is upregulated and you're feeling happy. So at that point, if you do that, and we know exercise affects dopamine, we know it increases serotonin, we can just get people engaged, having fun, having a sense of belonging, a sense of affiliation that comes with groups, and exercise becomes something not that they have to do, but something they get to do. They enjoy, they want to do it, and at that point, you have won.
Welcome to Zumba.
Is it any wonder
that
you get somebody out of the slums of South America who creates something that is arguably one of the most impressive trends in fitness? A lot of people have a lot of different opinions about Zumba, but I have seen through an auditorium in a conference I've spoken at of over 3,000 people going nuts to Zumba. And these were not professionals. Absolutely. These were everyday fitness enthusiasts who may or may not have walked into a gym, but they would walk into the Denver Coliseum. 3,000. There were like laser shows, music blasting, smoke machines, which, okay, in retrospect, probably not the greatest idea, trying to group that fast, but it was brilliant, and that sold me on the potential power of Zumba.
Absolutely.
So let's to the dysfunction, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you all the way. That was brilliant, Bobby. I loved every second of what you've just said. Every second. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
On to the next. Have a lovely week.
It's just my enthusiasm about what Group X brings to the table.
Well, I share that with you. It's my life's work. It's my life. It's the best. It's the best thing. I'm with you all. Everyone who knows me knows that I think it's just, I couldn't live without groups. Anyway, thank you. That was just the best yet. I loved it.
My pleasure, Jane. And the fourth dysfunction is obsessive compulsive disorder.
Oh, God.
I think all of us in this industry who really have a chance of reaching our own potential and being legendary. Maybe not legendary globally or nationally, but even if you're a legend in your club and you've got 2,000 active members and you can impact 10%, 20%, think about the legacy you leave behind. And I think, Group X instructors, I'm throwing, personal trainers into this as well. They understand that if you want to leave a legacy, you must live a legacy daily. And when you think about all of the geniuses or all of the people who have had an extraordinary impact on our society, in the article I listed the late, great Steve Jobs on the short list of this. I mean, can anyone argue right now? I'm sitting here on my Mac speaking to you. People might be watching this on their iPhone. You can't deny that this is an individual who has literally changed the world we live in. Not emotionally, but tangibly. Now, Steve Jobs was a genius, but he was also, if you take a look at his biography, if you take a look at the book I wrote about in the article, Canny's book, Inside Steve's Brain, this guy was very hard to get on with.
Yeah,
he was
I heard
not
that.
an easy person to work with. And, you know, I have a couple of really great friends of mine who have built, I think, peerless brands. They're world-renowned. They're world-famous. And they're very hard to get on with. They're the most lovely people socially. But they're very, very difficult in business because they have obsessive-compulsive disorder. Nothing is ever good enough for these people because these people love what they do so much. They have no idea where work begins and play ends, and vice versa. So if you take a look, but their vision is so strong that even though Steve Jobs might have had obsessive compulsive disorder and he was non-negotiable in his level of standards, and thank goodness for that, he still encouraged collaboration and attracted some of the top geniuses in his field because they just wanted to be around that type of vision. They wanted to be around that type of obsession over near perfection or excellence. There's no such thing as perfection, but excellence. These are people who could have gone anywhere, but they wanted to be part of the dream, even if they were dealing with a perpetually dissatisfied control freak. So while perfectionism is probably the path to procrastination, like we hear people talk about, well, I'm a perfectionist. What they're really saying is, I'm someone who's scared of being judged. I'm terrified of failure. So I'm going to sit here and not execute on anything till it's perfect because I know deep in my heart it never will be. So think about it. If Steve Jobs was a perfectionist, the iPod would still be in the design phase. But he wasn't. He was dysfunctionally obsessed with excellence. And if we buy into this, it's never good enough. Not because of any other reason, then we don't know where we end and our product begins. We get to be fully engrossed the same way we would be fully engrossed in sport or in love. I mean, I think Shakespeare in his 116th sonnet described love and affinity. Now, he was talking about someone who slept with his mistress, so I don't think he meant it in the positive sense. He was actually quite cross with this individual, but he said, let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not that which alters when the alteration finds, or bends with the remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark that looks upon tempest and is shaken. And that's how you get when you are in love with what you do.
We are. And I want to dedicate today to, just run with me on this, Alex Reese. Alex Reese, today was for you. Thank you so much. Fab. Are we over and out?
Nope. I just want to ask two questions to the people who are watching this right now. What is your area of specialization that is so enjoyable, so rewarding, not in the payoff it provides, but in the act of work itself, that you can obsess over it and you can provide that area of specialization better than almost anyone else in our field or anyone else in your community? What area of health and fitness and wellness interests you enough that you can imagine yourself becoming obsessed with it? Because I think when you're fully engaged, Chisette Mihaly, the author of the book Flow Peak Experiences, talks about the happiest, most productive people in our society are not necessarily the wealthiest, but they're the ones who are most engaged in a labor of love. So if you've ever written an article or taught in a class or went out dancing and you lost track of space and time and what you thought was a couple of minutes was truly a couple of hours, think about that, because it's probably when you've been the happiest. So that's the fourth out of the five dysfunctions.
I think you might have just touched, Bobby, on our Achilles heel in our industry right now as well. Is that there's a massive trend right now, or there seems to be, to me, that everyone is not focusing on what makes them special or what they do better, but they're all trying to be the same as, for some bizarre reason, everyone else. You see, that's the negative of what groups can bring as well. Everyone especially currently when you take the models like Zumba and the other things, it's the same thing. Therefore, the very special people that teach them, they're not really allowed to investigate what makes them special, which I think we should really be looking at right now, looking inside ourselves and getting that unique selling point or USP across.
Yep, it's very dangerous. I remember an article I read in Wired magazine. Oh God, this is going back into the 1990s, and this quote changed the way I looked at our industry. It changed the way I looked at my career, and I think I was the most redundant speaker in fitness because I repeated it over and over and over, and it was from Mike Goldhaber, and he said. And I'm paraphrasing, I haven't read this thing in a long time, but if there is nothing very special about your work, it means you won't get noticed. And that increasingly means you won't get paid much either. See, people get paid according to the value they bring to the marketplace.
Yeah.
So someone who gets paid $10, £10, €10 per hour, the difference between that person and a £40, €40 per hour person is that person, for whatever reason, either tangibly or some intangible, their reputation, their following, is worth more to their company if they own it, or the establishment that they work within, that they partnered with, than the first individual. So if we're not focusing on what makes us distinct, because we can do, I was describing to to Dr. Sally Pierce, one of my favorite people in the world, what makes another one of my favorite people in the world, Ian O'Dwyer, the most amazing guy. And I was trying to talk about what makes Ian extraordinary, and Sally said, "Well, that sounds like a great guy, but every great guy does stuff like that." I said, "You know what, Sally? The magic of Ian is he does things that are extraordinary in such an extraordinary fashion that you can't really explain it." I think if we get real, and once we stop worrying about how are we going to be perceived, or am I going to screw up? Yes, you will. You'll feel stupid. If you're not feeling stupid daily, you're just basically not doing anything interesting long term for you. So if we get rid of that, we can let that go, we'll start to find what it is that clicks with us, that resonates with certain type of people. We're not going to make everybody happy, but if we're getting on in our career and nothing's really troubling us and we're not really stressing about something and nothing's making us feeling uncomfortable, like Michelangelo said actually, forget that. Tom Peters. Let's go to Tom Peters for a second. I love this quote: "If it isn't broken, break it." Because what we hear in our society is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. No, the industry will change all around you. So that is very bad advice. If it isn't broken, break it before change makes you obsolete.
Absolutely. That's what I put in the newsletter last week. The classes, the things you guys need to focus on are the things that are going right, not the things that are going wrong, because they've gone wrong. You want to keep changing what's going right and making what's going right even better. I love that. Make the ordinary extraordinary. That's fantastic.
Business gurus Gary Hamel and C.K. Pralahan, and I love, in their book, Competing for the Future. I read Competing for the Future, and I think even a better book by Gary Hamel was Leading the Revolution. And Gary Hamel talks about a couple of things. He said, never in all of human history has a revolution been initiated by the monarchy. It's not the people at the top. We're waiting for the people at the top to initiate change. These are the people who have the most to lose from change.
Yeah.
The revolution, what happens? Trends very rarely, I'm not saying they don't, but they very rarely start at the corporate office, at head office. They start in the Group X room. They start out on the fitness floor. They start at the conferences. So if you want to talk about leading the revolution, you are the revolutionary. And Pralahan and Hamel said in Competing for the Future as a warning, there is no such thing, and this is more true today than over a decade ago when they said it. They said there's no such thing as a sustained competitive advantage. You must reinvent your competitive advantage, whether you're a company of 10 or 1 or 10,000, it does not matter.
Yeah. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So now we are done.
We've come to the end of eccentric Darwinism.
You guys need to listen to that over and over again, because Bobby, you've just come out with the best gems I've heard in ages. I've thoroughly enjoyed this eccentric Darwinism, which when you first suggested it, I thought, what on earth is he talking about? Best thing ever. And now we are done. Have a great day.
Bye, Jen.
I have to ruin it.